to recognize, cross-recognize variants to which are very distant to our vaccine strain, and which are, and these responses are protective. Okay, and I'm going to end and just leave this picture up here because this is what we all want to see when your rat becomes negative. Not mine. This is my nephew's. So thank him for this. He's in Sydney. All right, so I'll stop there. And questions.
Thanks, Alison. I think because of what's been filmed, you're going to share your own question.
Oh, yes.
Be orderly.
I'll repeat the question if anyone has one. Hope I can answer it. Yes, Mark.
So Alison, why are we surprised by this? Isn't this kind of second-year immunology that the plasma cells die off and you lose the antibody responses, but the memory responses that are important, and maybe they're less. Shouldn't we have anticipated? Because there was all this panic about this decaying circulating antibodies, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, surely this is what we should have been anticipating.
That's right. And it's actually been shown for influenza as well, right? Yeah, this has been shown for influenza virus. So the question, good question that Mike's asking is why were we surprised by these very nice findings, which are second-year immunology, yes. So basically the same mechanisms which have been activated, which we anticipated, but we somehow got on this bandwagon that it's not going to happen, and we're all doomed. I love to say that. We're all doomed. Because you've been hearing this so much, right? Because there has been significant morbidity and mortality, so you can't dismiss that. This is a new virus, it causes a new disease, so we're trying to understand the natural history. But for some reason, yes, we like to think on the dark side and think, no, none of this is going to work. But it really has. So it's really good to see that our immune systems can protect us. Of course, it's concerning for people who have suppressed or compromised immunity, but we have a lot, and we have some excellent antivirals which can block replication, which are very effective. Yes. Yes, Barry?
So what you're saying is common sense in that if we couldn't fight the virus, we'd all be dead and everyone would die from it. Obviously, when you recover from the virus, you've built up some kind of immunity to eliminate the virus.
Yes, and the interesting thing is, and Mark and I were just chatting about this the other day, I think because we're likely all exposed to the seasonal coronaviruses, including the beta coronaviruses, when we're very young, and we see now children, fortunately, haven't been really impacted by this disease as much as they could have been, that perhaps we have this protective immunity from quite a young age, right? And we're exposed to these other coronaviruses all of our life. We haven't been able to find anyone who's not positive to OC43, for instance. So maybe that's part of it.
So leading on to that, so what's the story with passive vaccination? So for immune deficient people getting gamma globulin and things like that from covered people. Yeah.
So in the early days meaning 2020. Yep, it's like that, isn't it? Time warp. There was a lot of interest in using convalescent plasma as a therapeutic. A lot of interest. So the people were donating plasma once they became cases because no one had vaccinated yet. My understanding of the reading is that wasn't that effective, right? But the monoclonals, which are the very specific antibodies, have been very effective at depending on the antibody, of course, at modulating viral load.
If you go back, Alison, a couple of slides, so where you show the CD8, CD4 responses, that might keep going, that one. Yeah. So you've got some on the baseline.
Yes, that's right.
Who are they? What happens to them?
That's right. Well, we're not lab mice, right? So we are humans who are heterogeneous.
Yeah, does a lack of that sort of response correlate with severe disease?
A good question. That wasn't mentioned in these papers, but certainly, yeah, that's something that's important. Yeah.
We have 2 questions online.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, we have 70 people checked in, which is amazing. So the question from Jimmy Singh is there a requirement for a 4th dose? And will the number of doses correlate with the immunity in individuals?
No, the question was, is there a requirement for a 4th dose, and would this 4th dose then correlate with protection, I guess, right? Yeah. So as far as I'm aware, there isn't a requirement for a 4th dose. People who have immunosuppressive histories or have some particular medical need are having 4th doses. I don't know if it's going to be rolled out for everyone. I'm not a public health person, but the question about what the association with protection will be, well, we'll see. We'll see how that then that this additional antigen will modify this kind of pattern that we're seeing now. There's been some kind of fear-mongering as always that this is bad. You can't have overstimulation, and this leads to apoptosis of your memory cells and so on. No evidence for that yet, but there's always, you got to look at the negative side. So we'll see is the short answer.
Right. And I've got another question from Pooja. What would you suggest as the best method to improve the humoral response to Omicron?
You mean your personal? No, you mean...
Personal from you?
No, I'm sorry. What do you suggest as the best way to improve your humoral response? You mean as an individual person or... Diet and exercise? Just live well.
Molecular mechanisms.
To improve... I'd win the Nobel Prize, Barry, if I knew the short answer to how to...
I don't know if the email's open, but I sent you your final slide, which you haven't included yet, but I've sent one to you, which you should put up.
She says different types of vaccine adjuvants.
Oh, the adjuvants. Yeah, so Novavax certainly is not a replicating or not... The other vaccines are not live either, right? But they have certain pathways which don't require adjuvants as much, but certainly the Novavax one will need one, has one. But, I mean, that's just vaccine specific and depends on the study of the design of the vaccine. And new adjuvants are being developed, right? So I don't know if there is one particular adjuvant that will always be the best one. I think you have to match it to the vaccine that you've designed, yeah. There was
I sent a slide in your email which addresses this question.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to get there.
That would be my email address on that.
Someone else's email.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
not, yeah.
don't worry about it.
I look forward to looking at it.
Well, one of the issues with any vaccination is to make it, to make people have it, then it has to be in 1 or 2 doses. Once you get up to 3, no common vaccination has been popular or successful if you have to have 3. It's too expensive, because each time, although we say it's, in Australia it's free, etc., in actual fact it probably costs $30 every time you have it to go to the doctor and get it, or cold chain and all that kind of stuff. So that if you're talking about an HIV vaccine in Africa, to get people to walk miles and miles and have their boosters, etc., that's going to fail. So maybe we need to change the mindset, and we will need continuous vaccinations of some sort. And so there's opportunity for all kinds of new technologies, very simple technologies, to get that vaccination, whether it's RNA or just the antigen, into the body one way or another, in a way that everybody can use it cost effectively. So I think it's going to be a new generation of vaccination coming out, and new strategies, and governments probably will pay for it. Yes, and that's, so sorry I can't repeat all of that, but Barry was just saying some great stuff, and also this idea of this, what's coming up next very shortly, and they were being developed before emergence of this virus anyway, is this influenza as well will be added to probably the coronavirus vaccine, right? So you get multiple antigens instead of just one and then another one after that.
I was just going to point out that most of the childhood, or a good proportion of the childhood vaccines in Australia are actually 3-dose vaccines.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's unprecedented.
Boosters require makeup.
Yeah, exactly. So,
But Barry's got a good point. You're talking about other settings where it's much more difficult to access healthcare, right? And yeah, definitely.
Yes, I went to a talk many years ago by the person who invented pneumovax in Switzerland. He says the problem is, if it's voluntary and adults have to go and get it and have a needle, we'll never succeed.
and
We're getting there, it's improving.
I think you can see that with influenza vaccination rates as well, that it's voluntary and largely for adults, and the what's it like, 40 to 60%, depending on the severity of the year. So that's true.
One thing about this pandemic is people have become very familiar with the terms vaccine and virus, and protection and all of these things. So it brings it back into the public domain. There's been lots of discussion. Some of the discussions are not so good, not so healthy, but at least we're talking about it, right?
Well, I reckon the vast majority of people now accept the collective responsibility to vaccination.
Yeah.
You shouldn't look at the negatives,
Yeah.
tiny percent who are anti it.
Hmm.
The vast majority get it.
That's true. The very small percentage of people who are anti-vaccine or resistant, but also just hesitant. I think the hesitant people just need some other assistance or advice. But you're right. It takes up so much of the conversation. But most people have just done this because it makes sense. That's one thing that's just been wonderful. It's this very pragmatic approach, right? You've got to get vaccinated. Also helps if you can't go to the pub if you're not vaccinated. That really kind of got the rate up. Very pragmatic. Okay.
The final thing would be, in Australia, if your kids are totally vaccinated and you're a mum somewhere, it's worth like $500 a year in extra benefits if you've got the whole family up to date with vaccination. So that kind of incentive, like discounts on your driver's license or your electricity bill or something, is the way to go as far as I'm concerned. So that, and when someone's bragging about the fact that they don't believe in vaccine, everyone's going to say, well, you're stupid, we're getting that $500 and you're not.
Yeah, so rewarding people rather than punishing them by not letting them go to the pub or whatever.
And then it's still not free choice.
Yeah. No, this is really excellent. So, thank you. Thanks, good questions.
Thank you.